Across the galaxy, every star was burning in fear, every moon shaking with explosions, every space station screaming for help in broken radio signals that vanished into static before reaching anyone. And all empires that once fought each other now stood shoulder to shoulder in panic because a new enemy had arrived, the vast swarm. Creatures that did not conquer planets or steal resources or negotiate for peace, they ate planets, digging into the crust like insects eating fruit, drinking oceans like water, and leaving behind dead stones spinning in the dark. Entire worlds that once held billions of lives now floated as empty shells, quiet like graves in space, and stories spread like wildfire through every channel. The swarm reached Karun Prime. The swarm ate Asterian's core. The swarm is heading for central space, and every government, every military, every navy commander repeated the same question that was echoing in every corridor of every warship: where are the humans? Humanity was expected to lead this war, to stand as shield, not because humans were the oldest race or richest, but because humans were the strongest. They were the only species that ever fought an extinction war and survived, the only species that turned weakness into fire, fear into victory. The galaxy remembered stories from past centuries. Humans fighting against terrifying empires, humans facing machines that erased minds, humans standing alone against fleets 10 times larger and still winning, humans burning through dark matter storms with teeth clenched and fire in their eyes. But now, in the biggest war in known time, when the universe needed humans the most, humanity was missing. No human ships flew in the sky, no human admirals stood on holomaps shouting commands, no marines with burning eyes jumped from dropships into the jaws of hell. It was as if humanity had fallen off the face of existence, erased, forgotten, vanished. Some believed humans were hiding, preparing something bigger than anyone could imagine. Some believed humans were truly dead, their proud empire destroyed in a final battle somewhere beyond the charts. Some believed humans evolved into something else, something the galaxy was not ready to understand. But no one knew the truth. And while species argued over what happened to humanity, planets kept dying, one by one, like falling stars dropping from the night sky into cold water. The vast swarm laughed without mouths, screamed without sound, moved like nightmares shaped into living flesh, millions of black wings beating through space, covering the stars like smoke from burning worlds, and every fleet that tried to fight them broke like glass thrown into a storm. The swarm did not fire weapons, it used physics like claws, ripping ships apart by bending gravity, turning metal into melting liquid, tearing engines off like wings from a bird, and swallowing everything with bodies shaped like living gravity. On the biggest battlefield in the Milky Way arm, 300 alien warships surrounded a single swarm cluster, firing beams so strong they cut moons in half, but the swarm absorbed the blasts like water absorbs stones. Alien commanders panicked, screaming into the comms, "Retreat! Retreat!" But they were too late. The swarm jumped, tearing through space like a hole opening into the black belly of reality, appearing behind the fleet before anyone could blink, and 1,000 ships exploded in silent blue light, their crews turning into dust, sparks blinking off like memories erased before anyone could speak their names. The screams from survivors cut into every network. They are unstoppable. We cannot kill them. This is not war, this is extinction. But those messages died in static when the swarm's dark energy swallowed the frequencies, making the universe quiet again. In that silence, the galaxy began whispering a name like a prayer: humans. Even children on distant planets who never saw a human or heard their language whispered stories they learned from old cartoons and history shows. Stories of hairless primates from a blue world who fought gods and monsters with nothing but rage and love in their hearts. In the council chamber, thousands of alien ambassadors argued over maps showing burning star systems, red dots turning black, worlds dying faster than they could count, and the council president slammed his fist on the crystal table shouting, "We need humans. They were strongest. Where are they?" But no ambassador had an answer. Rumors rose like ghosts. Some said humans died fighting a final war centuries ago. A war so terrible it erased every record, every archive, leaving only myths in children's bedtime stories. Some said humans built a weapon that killed them too, a weapon made from their own DNA. Others whispered something darker: humans never died, humans became something new. But no one believed their own whispers. In the middle of a burning starfield, An alien scout ship named Farseeker floated near the wreckage of 3 dead planets, scanning the debris for survivors, picking up floating escape pods, collecting data cores from broken ships, hoping to find even one message someone left behind before death. But Farseeker's sensors picked up something strange, a human frequency, a signal pattern that should not exist anymore, a pattern older than all the new nav systems, a radio style that hasn't been used in centuries, a whisper from the grave of time. The crew of Farseeker froze, their 4 antenna tails standing straight like spears, their breathing heavy, hearts pounding, because they knew no living species uses human encoding anymore. The captain, a tall blue alien named Soren, stared at the holoscreen and whispered, "It cannot be. Humans are gone." But the signal was real, repeating every 13 seconds with a tone that sounded like a heartbeat passing through space. Thump, thump, thump. Soren ordered a full scan, and the AI confirmed the impossible. The signal came from an empty star system, one that maps show as a dead place, a ghost system with no suns, no planets, only a dark hole where a star exploded long ago. The crew stared at the coordinates with shaking hands. The system had no reason to produce a signal. Yet the signal pulsed again, and this time, it carried words. Every ship in the region heard the message at the exact same time, every radio, every screen, every AI, every implanted neural receiver. All of them played the same line in a voice that sounded too calm, too cold, too powerful to belong to the living. Do not let the swarm reach Sol. We are returning. Then silence. The crew screamed, some collapsing into chairs, some backing away from the control table like the voice could reach through the screen and grab their throats. The navigator whispered in horror. Sol? That is the human home system. The communications officer said with shaking voice, humans are alive? That question traveled through the galaxy like lightning across dry grass, hitting every world like thunder. People in factories stopped their work, letting metal melt in their hands. Scientists on frozen worlds dropped their tablets and stared at the sky. Children asked their parents what Sol means. And old veterans who fought in forgotten wars felt their scars burn again like fresh wounds, whispering through broken teeth. They're coming back. Every news channel repeated the same shocking headline, human signal detected. Some believed it instantly, crying with joy, thinking humans would save them again like old stories. Some fell into fear, remembering that humans do not return quietly. When humans rise, the universe changes. Some governments panicked, shouting, if humans return now, the swarm will follow them. Others celebrated, chanting, humanity will burn the swarm to ash. But almost everyone felt one thing, the return of legends. In the council chamber, silence drowned the room, the ambassadors staring at the hologram of a faded human symbol glowing above the map. A small blue circle with a spark inside, the historical emblem of Sol. A millipede-shaped ambassador from the outer rim whispered, humans said Sol is life's cradle. If humans return to Sol, then something bigger than war is coming. The council president swallowed hard, remembering old stories told by dying soldiers in the last war. When humans make a promise, even death cannot stop them from coming back to fulfill it. And the signal was not a request. It was a warning. Do not let the swarm reach Sol. Why? What was in Sol? Earth? Ancient technology? Something buried? Something waiting? The galaxy realized a terrifying question. Why does the swarm want Sol? If the swarm eats planets like food, why do they ignore rich worlds and chase empty systems? Why are they moving toward a dead star path? The president looked at the empty star map and whispered, humans know something we don't. The council tried to decode the voice, but voice patterns didn't match any known human database. It was human, but changed, deeper, sharper, carrying weight like someone who has seen suns explode and worlds scream. The AI ran analysis, voice age estimated, 300 years. That meant the voice could not be a living human talking now. It was a recording, but how did a recording speak using live timing? How did a dead voice know the swarm's path? How did a memory warn the galaxy today? Suddenly, the war alarm screamed through the chamber. The swarm changed direction. Every ship log confirmed the same nightmare. The swarm stopped eating worlds. Now the swarm was moving straight towards Sol system. Every empire froze, fear gripping hearts like cold claws. The enemy that eats planets without emotion suddenly ignored planets to chase a dead world. Someone whispered in terror, "They fear humans," and another voice answered, "No, they fear what humans left behind." Across planets, civilians whispered humanity's name like a myth. Humans, 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 not as a scream of fear, but as a prayer for survival. Even species that hated humans before now begged, "Let humans return." Because one truth burned into every mind. In every ancient story, when everyone else ran, humans always turned back and fought. But now, humanity had vanished in the final war. No one knows if they died, or became something new. And the voice returned from the past to warn the living. Galaxy freezes in the darkness, waiting for a return no one understands. And far away in the empty star system, where no sun shines, something ancient begins to wake. When the signal faded into the void and the endless silence of deep space returned, every empire's fleets moved toward the empty star system like iron pulled by gravity. Engines burning bright trails across darkness. Commanders whispering that they might be walking into a trap made by ghosts. But no one dared stop because everyone knew ignoring that human message would be a bigger trap. So scout ships led the way into a region called the Grave Belt, a frozen corridor of collapsed stars and dead. Planets where the oldest war in history took place. A place no species entered for centuries because legends said the space there remembers death. But desperation kills fear faster than courage. And when the first ships entered, the darkness swallowed their senses, turning maps into blind screens covered by static like ancient memories bleeding through space. And in that heavy silence the crews felt something unnatural, the sense of presence. Like a giant sleeping under the stars, breathing. So slowly the universe forgot the rhythm. The flagship Crown of Vesa pushed forward, its captain Soren's face pale under blue skin, his four eyes reflecting the hologram showing nothing but darkness. Yet the AI repeated, "Human frequency detected, 92% confirmed." And it felt like listening to the heartbeat of someone buried alive, a heartbeat traveling across centuries, begging someone to hear. The crew whispered old stories about a war humans fought alone, the last stand of Sol, a battle so terrible no archive dares describe it. Only fragments exist. Children's poems, broken signals, screams recorded in broken code repeating words like "We are burning the sky and don't follow us," making the legend of humanity's disappearance heavier than any truth, because legends carry pain that facts cannot show. As they moved deeper, Farseeker's sensors found wreckage, pieces of human ships drifting like bones of metal, their hulls marked by ancient wounds, melted edges shaped like claws carved from gravity, scars glowing faint blue like fire that never cooled down, and the ship's medical AI whispered something chilling. These scars are not erosion. They are impact wounds from war. That meant these ships died fighting something powerful enough to bend reality around metal, something that humans faced centuries ago without help. The crew collected a floating reactor core, cracked open like an egg, revealing human runes carved inside, ancient symbols repeating one word in circles, "Remember." No one understood why humans carved this inside a machine, but everyone felt an emotional weight, like those runes carried tears instead of ink. As they scanned deeper, they found a massive human warship half buried in a dead asteroid. Its name still readable on broken hull, Silence of Sol. The name alone made every soldier on the alien fleet shiver, because humans do not name ships Silence unless they lost everything first. The ship looked dead, but inside, one flickering light blinked every 13 seconds, matching the heartbeat signal, the origin of the message. With shaking hands, technicians cut into the hull, their tools burning through rusted metal, releasing a puff of cold air that smelled like dust from forgotten centuries. And when they reached the command chamber, they found one human lying inside a broken cryo chamber, still breathing, but barely, like someone dying across time. His chest lifting slightly with each slow breath. His skin was pale, like moonlight, scars covering his arms like maps of war written into flesh, and his hair was white not from age but from trauma frozen into DNA. His eyes were closed, but tears dried on his face, like he was crying before sleeping for centuries. They hooked his body to machines, trying to stabilize the last human they ever saw, the last soldier of a forgotten war. Suddenly, his eyes opened, not like waking from sleep, but like someone drowning and suddenly breathing again. and he screamed, a scream full of centuries of pain, echoing through the metal chamber like the voice of someone who watched stars die. The AI recorded the scream, translating the human's broken words, "Do not wake the sleepers, they will end everything." The crew stepped back in fear. Who are the sleepers? Humans? Or something humans hid? The man grabbed Soren's arm with strength stronger than dying body should have, eyes burning with terror. "We died to keep them asleep. Do not let the swarm reach Sol." His voice cracked, blood dripping from his lips, his body shaking from memories of war he never escaped. Soren asked, "Are humans alive? Where are they now?" But the man didn't answer. Instead he whispered something more terrifying, "We are not gone. We became what they fear." Then his body collapsed, his head falling limp, machines screaming flat pulses, life lost. But before he died, he pressed a small metal disc into Soren's hand, carved with runes that matched the ones inside the reactor, "Remember." The crew stood frozen, looking at the dead man, the last witness to humanity's final battle. Tears fell from the eyes of species that never met humans, crying not because they knew him, but because they felt his scream. The scream of a species that carried war in its bones, fought alone while galaxies slept, and died saving children who would never know their names. He died without fear. He died with purpose. Outside the chamber, the swarm attack alarms exploded across the ship. The vast swarm appeared near the dead system, thousands of black shapes flying through darkness without light, sensing the human signal, rushing toward the silent ship like wolves smelling blood. Soren shouted orders. The fleet formed shields around the silence of Sol, even though they barely understood what they were protecting. But something inside them felt sacred. This ship, this man, this message. The swarm attacked with gravity bursts, tearing through escorts like claws through paper. Ships broke in half with no explosion, debris floating slow like ghosts dancing in vacuum. The alien fleet panicked, screaming commands, "Protect the human artifact. Form shield wall. Do not let them reach the relic." Even those who never cared about humans now risked their lives defending human metal, because that dead man gave them something they never had, a chance, a warning, a path. Soren connected the human disk to the ship's interface, hoping it holds answers. Screens glitched, flickered, then played a recording, not a video, not a face, just the sound of war, screams of men and women fighting against unthinkable horror, voices shouting commands in broken static, "Fall back. Burn the sky. Do not follow us. Protect Sol." Then silence replaced the screams, and a calm voice spoke, the same voice heard in the message, "If you hear this, humanity lost." The crew collapsed into chairs, shock draining their strength, tears falling from eyes. The voice continued, "We buried history. We erased our name. We burned every map that leads to Sol. You must keep the galaxy away. They fear us, because we became something worse than fear." The swarm hit again. Ships shook violently, cracks appearing in hulls, explosions burning through decks. Soren shouted, "Retreat! We cannot win." But soldiers refused. "We hold. We protect the message." They fought like death meant nothing, like this human recording gave them strength. For the first time, alien weapons slowed the swarm, not because they got stronger, but because the swarm hesitated, their movements slowing as if they remembered something ancient. A memory of humans fighting them alone, a memory of burning skies above Sol. The swarm screeched in silence, their energy rippling through darkness, sending a pulse-like voice without words, "Memory detected. Humans." The fleet AI translated the pulse through resonance patterns. Sol must be erased. The crew realized the truth. The swarm did not hunt planets because they are hungry. The swarm hunts memory, anything that remembers humans, anything connected to Sol. The Va are not just monsters. They are erasers of history. And humanity was the only species they ever failed to erase. That is why the swarm fears Sol, fears whatever humans left behind. And now, the galaxy understands the meaning of that message. Do not let the swarm reach Sol. If they reach Sol, they will erase the final memory of humanity, the last story of human sacrifice. Soren whispered, voice breaking, "Humans died to protect something bigger than themselves." A soldier asked, What did they protect? Soren looked at the dead human, his pale face peaceful like he finally rested after centuries of screaming in silence, and answered, tomorrow. Outside, the swarm pulled back, not because they lost, but because they sensed something waking. The empty star system echoed with vibrations deeper than sound, deeper than gravity. Like something sleeping under the bones of space, something humans buried to stop the swarm. The stars flickered like they remembered fear. And every radio in the fleet whispered humanity's name like the universe itself whispered, we are returning. The crew looked into the dark and felt history move. They did not know if humans were alive or dead. They did not know if humanity was salvation or something worse. But one truth now lived in every heart. The moment the alien fleet realized the swarm was pulling back, turning away from the broken ship and vanishing into darkness like smoke escaping a dying fire, no one celebrated, no one breathed freely, because the silence that followed felt heavier than the battle itself, like the quiet after a scream where you know the second scream will be louder. And every commander stared at the star map showing red enemy markers changing direction in perfect formation, heading straight for the inner spiral arm of the galaxy, a path that would bypass rich worlds, ignore valuable planets, and lead directly towards Sol like a knife following the line of an old scar. Because now everyone understood that the swarm did not want war. The swarm wanted erasure, and humanity was the only truth in the universe they failed to erase once. A wound in their history that never healed. Across the fleets, officers whispered legends told by half-drunk veterans in dark bars, stories about the Last Dawn War, a battle no one recorded, where humans screamed into burning stars and refused to die quietly, stories people laughed at before but now felt terrifyingly real, because those stories said something no one believed until this moment. Humans fought the swarm alone, and that is why the swarm changed shape. That is why their dark bodies carry scars like melted glass. That is why void screams carry frequency patterns that match ancient human weapons, patterns that have not been used in centuries. Soren stood at the command bridge of Crown of Vesa, staring at the dead human in the cryo chamber, feeling like the weight of the galaxy was pressing on his chest, because that dying soldier did not scream for help, did not ask for revenge, did not fear death. He warned, he begged others to protect Sol, even while knowing he would die before hearing the answer. And something about that sacrifice made Soren's voice crack when he said, we must tell the council. The moment the council received the report, the chamber exploded into fear and disbelief, leaders arguing with shaking voices, screens replaying the human message again and again. Do not let the swarm reach Sol. We are returning. Some ambassadors shouted that humans were lying, that the signal was a trap left by ancient technology, a ghost program to manipulate them. But others argued with tears in their eyes that no trap would carry such pain in its voice, that the man's last words were too real to be code. Wounds do not lie. The council president, his voice broken by shock, asked, if humans are returning, where are they? But no one could answer, because finding humanity now felt like trying to find fire inside cold ashes, hoping it still glows somewhere deep. While governments fought with fear, the galaxy itself reacted. Across planets millions of people whispered humanity's name without knowing why. Like the universe released a memory everyone forgot they inherited. Children drawing stars on walls with blue circles in the center. Elderly citizens crying without memory, saying I remember humans even though they were born centuries after humans vanished. And that strange emotional echo spread through the network like a ghost of humanity walking through minds, reminding the living that humans were more than species. Humans were a story, a legend that shaped the galaxy even after disappearing. In refugee camps near dead star systems, soldiers repeated the message to each other like prayer, they are returning. Not with fear, but with hope, because humanity once stood between darkness and everything alive, and the idea that they might return made broken hearts rise like flames from cold coal. But not everyone felt hope. Many empires remembered humans as conquerors, as wild warriors who turned war into art, as creatures who looked at death like challenge, and they feared the return might bring not salvation but a new war, a war that ends with humanity as rulers of everything. One ambassador whispered, if humans return strong, the galaxy may kneel forever. But another answered, we kneeled already, to the swarm, and silence fell, the truth louder than fear. Soren studied the runes on the metal disc in his hand, feeling the grooves carved by someone who carved with shaking hands during war, cut into metal like someone begging the future to remember their sacrifice, and the runes translated into one word repeated 5 times. Remember, and suddenly Soren understood. Humans erased their history, but they left memory in symbols, in scars, in whispers, like a message for children they would never meet. Do not let us die twice. And that is when the reality became clear. Humans didn't vanish to hide. Humans vanished to protect, to stop the galaxy from following them into the same death that swallowed their first empire, to keep other worlds safe by burying their own name. The Council analyzed the dead soldier's DNA, and the results sent shockwaves through science. His DNA was changed, not mutated randomly, but rewritten, strands fused with patterns unknown to biology, shapes that looked like someone tried to encode memory into flesh, data stored inside cells like living archives, something no empire ever tried, turning blood into history. Scientists whispered that humans died carrying their memories so their children could start without that trauma. But now that trauma is waking from the bones of the universe, like the past refusing to stay buried. Meanwhile, the swarm kept moving, 70,000 void creatures flying through space faster than light, leaving ripples of cold through the vacuum like frost spreading on glass, their bodies absorbing starlight until constellations vanished behind them, and every sensor in the galaxy screamed the same truth. The swarm fears Sol, not for what Sol is now, but for what Sol once was, the heart of humanity, the place where a species learned how to turn fear into fire. The Council issued a final warning to all fleets: block the swarm at all costs. But admirals asked the question that made everyone silent: how do we block something humans could not stop? No one answered. On distant planets, priests of hundreds of religions told their followers the same prophecy with different words. The children of extinction are coming home, and the sky felt heavier like a memory falling from the stars. Young cadets in training halls listened to old commanders tell stories of humans laughing in battles, punching machines with bare hands, jumping into war without shields, screaming for Sol, even when surrounded by death. And across the galaxy, fear changed shape, not fear of humans, but fear for humans, fear that if humanity returns, they will die again fighting a war alone unless the galaxy stands beside them. On Crown of Vesa, Soren prepared a message, his hands shaking like someone holding a dying friend, his voice heavy when he spoke to all fleets. Humanity sacrificed everything to give us time. We will not waste it. Officers saluted the broken ship, a gesture for a soldier who would never see sunrise again, but whose last breath might save billions. Then something impossible happened. The human ship, Silence of Sol, activated, its broken command core flickering like a dying heartbeat. Screens lighting across the cabin, showing a star map of the galaxy with only one highlight, Sol glowing like a blue spark. And beneath the map, a line appeared, written in old human language: if we fall, protect Earth. If we rise, forgive us. The crew stared at the second sentence in confusion. Why would humans ask for forgiveness? What did they become? What did they do to survive? Before anyone could think, the star map changed, showing the swarm's path, predicting every jump, every movement, ending in a bright circle around a small yellow star, Sol. And with that final display, the Silence of Sol died completely, power fading like a dying breath, leaving only a cold metal tomb carrying a soldier's tears and a warning heavy enough to change the future. Soren closed the soldier's eyes gently, whispering in the human language he practiced from myth recordings, rest. We will fight. Outside, the swarm screamed through the void, their voices vibrating like hunger shown as sound, memory detected. Sol. And across millions of worlds, people whispered humanity's name like a song rising from ancient grave: humanity. Humanity is alive. The legend was no longer a story. It was returning with the force of a forgotten storm. Far beyond the edge of mapped space, where no star shines and no planet lives, something moved, a shadow with shape, a fleet without metal, energy breathing like a living storm. And in the center of that shadow, something whispered back to the galaxy: we are returning. And everyone felt a truth that shook hearts. If humans truly return now, they will not return as the species the galaxy remembers. They will return as the thing that made even the swarm change their path. As the swarm carved its path through darkness towards Sol, a truth older than the stars began to wake in the hearts of those who heard the human recording, because the galaxy finally understood something it was never meant to know. Humanity did not disappear because they lost the war. Humanity disappeared because they won a war no one else could survive, and that victory was so terrible it forced them to erase themselves for the safety of everyone else. And the more scientists studied the human body recovered from silence of soul, the more they realized humans had not died out naturally. They had changed, evolving through trauma, rewriting their own DNA like a desperate message carved into flesh, turning their blood into a library of suffering and memory that no archive could ever erase. And the dead soldier lying in the cryo chamber was not a normal human. He was a hybrid of history and biology. His veins carrying patterns like encrypted data, his bones showing traces of energy fields. Unknown to science, his nerves wired like circuits built from fear and love, and that is when the galaxy understood humanity's darkest secret. Humans were not hunted because they were aggressive. Humans were hunted because they learn from death faster than death kills them. Every loss, every scream, every broken bone becomes new strength, new rage, new intelligence faster than any machine can calculate. The Council's lab scanned the soldier's brain, expecting to find scars, but instead they found something shocking: crystalline clusters growing inside memory centers, recording trauma as physical structure, meaning that humans of the last war did not just remember war, they grew from it, evolving inside the battlefield like a seed growing inside fire. And that evolution did not stop when the war ended, it continued, asleep inside the genome of every human child born afterward. Now the question terrorized every government. If humans return, what are they now? On the star maps, the swarm's formation changed shape, shifting from chaotic movement to perfect circles, a pattern that matched ancient war records from before humans vanished, a pattern called fear circles, used only when the swarm faced something that scared them so deeply they forgot hunger. And the only time that pattern appeared in history was during the last stand of Sol, when humanity turned the sun into a weapon and burned half the swarm into glowing ash, a sacrifice so extreme that every archive describing it was either erased or locked forever. Now that pattern was returning, repeating like a trauma in an enemy mind, proving that even monsters can remember fear. The Council generals argued that humans must be alive somewhere, a hidden fleet waiting beyond mapped space, a force preparing to strike when the swarm reaches Sol. But the scientists shook their heads, saying humans left nothing behind: no ships, no bases, no colonies, no stations, only scars in dead space and one message repeating like heartbeat. So how could they be returning? Soren stared at the metal disc marked Remember and understood a terrifying possibility. Humans might not be returning in ships. Humans might be returning in another form, and that form might be the very thing the swarm is running from. While the galaxy tried to solve the mystery of human existence, on a quiet moon orbiting Cress 1, a retired historian named Yala opened a forgotten vault built from ancient metal. A vault sealed by humans during First Alliance wars centuries ago. And inside she found a black book written in human language, called the Testament of Fire, pages made from synthetic star fabric, that recorded something so unbelievable she cried reading it. The final war did not end because humans won, it ended because humans did something the galaxy would never allow, something forbidden by the laws of creation. They merged consciousness, connecting millions of minds into one swarm of emotion powerful enough to tear the swarm's hive apart, using pain as weapon, opening their minds to each other until they were no longer individuals but a single living storm. And that storm screamed through space, ripping stars open, burning planets without intention, forcing the swarm to flee not from strength, but from human sorrow, because when millions remember death together, the memory becomes a bomb. Yala realized something chilling. Humanity did not disappear because they lost. Humanity disappeared because they could not live like that anymore. They erased themselves to escape the monster they became, separating their minds again by wiping collective memory from their children, so the next generation could laugh, love, and play without the weight of a billion deaths. They buried the truth of their unity deep in Sol, under the oceans and the sun, sealing the hive mind inside ancient technology, leaving a warning to the future: do not wake the sleepers. The sleepers were not weapons, they were humans, millions of voices locked inside a machine the size of a moon, dreaming in silence through centuries, waiting for the day the swarm returns so their children wouldn't die alone. Yala sent this information to the Council with shaking hands, crying as she wrote, "If humanity returns, it will not be as individuals. It will return as the storm." The Council panicked. They understood the meaning. Humanity evolved into something the galaxy cannot negotiate with, cannot control, cannot understand. A living memory, the kind that feels every death and uses it as fuel. Some ambassadors argued humanity must be stopped from returning, saying if humans rise as one mind, they could destroy everything, even by accident. Others argued humanity saved the galaxy once and will do it again. And if they must become a storm, then the galaxy must stand behind them or die in darkness. But the question remained, how do you fight beside something that feels every death as its own? On the battlefield, the alien fleets combined into one formation for the first time in history, not because they trusted each other, but because they feared the alternative, their ships moving like scales on the back of a giant animal, ready to face the swarm's comeback. Soldiers stood silent in corridors, gripping weapons with shaking hands, whispering humanity's name like a prayer, not asking humans to save them, but promising that they will not let humans die alone again. And far beyond the galaxy's edge, past collapsed stars and broken dimensions, a shadow moved, like a fleet made of black fire drifting through the void, each ship breathing energy like lungs of a creature that never sleeps. And inside those ships, silhouettes sat in darkness, sharing thoughts without speaking, connected by threads made of emotion and memory. Soldiers whose eyes glowed like dying stars, humans who did not scream in battle, because they were battle. And their leader whispered. Through the hive mind, they found the message. Prepare the return. The hive responded in a whisper made of millions of voices layered together, like a choir made from ghosts of every ancestor, for Sol. The swarm froze mid-flight, sensing the vibration in space. The memory of a war they almost forgot but never escaped, and a pulse passed through their bodies like fear hidden under hunger, humans. The galaxy felt the signal before scanners did, heartbeats syncing with something ancient, something heavy, the return of humanity, not as an army of separate people, but as a living storm driven by love for a home they haven't seen in centuries. And in that moment, every empire understood that the war for Sol is not a battle for territory. It is a battle for the future of all life, and the only force that ever defeated the swarm is coming home, not to conquer, but because the galaxy finally needs them. On the council floor, silence fell as a message appeared on every screen. Written in ancient human script, "We are sorry. Forgive what we must become." Everyone read it, and cried without knowing why. The moment the ancient human message appeared on every screen in the council chamber, written in a language extinct for centuries, "We are sorry. Forgive what we must become." The galaxy understood that humanity's return would not be the triumphant roar they imagined. It would be a heartbreak, a warning from a species that carried too many ghosts inside its blood. And before the ambassadors could speak, before governments could argue, before scientists could explain the meaning of apology, space itself trembled, like existence took a breath it did not want to release. And every sensor across 1,000 fleets screamed the same signal. Something enormous was moving. Through the dark, not like ships flying, but like gravity walking, bending the stars around it as if light itself bowed when it passed. And the scanners tried to measure its size but failed, showing numbers that made no sense. Fleets the size of continents, engines deeper than suns, signatures older than recorded time, and inside that darkness, waves of emotion rushed across space like a storm made of human memories. Millions of overlapping heartbeats whispering the same line, "For Sol." Every soldier on every ship froze when they felt it. Not in their ears, but in their bones, like the universe was whispering through their blood, and even species without empathy felt tears form in their eyes, because that whisper carried something raw and painful. Love mixed with loss, a sound that carried the weight of entire civilizations buried in silence. The first shadow emerged from the black between galaxies, a ship, but calling it a ship felt like calling a star a candle, because it had no metal hull, no engines, no wings. It was shaped like a burning storm, a vessel made from dark plasma wrapped in glowing threads of energy that moved like nerves under skin, alive, breathing, like the ship itself felt emotions, its surface pulsing with starlight that bent around it like light was scared to touch, and engraved across its surface in faint blue glow was a symbol every species knew from history, the mark of Sol, the human sun symbol that children once drew in classrooms, a circle with a burning in the center, now carved on a monster of black fire drifting between stars. And behind that leading ship, thousands more appeared, forming rings like black halos, each ship moving in perfect unity, not through communication, but through shared thought, no delays, no hesitation. The hive mind Yala read an ancient book now breathing in the present. Millions of human souls bound across time, returning not as individuals but as one consciousness, a living army of memory. The galaxy watched in terror as these ships approached. Not firing, not threatening, just existing. Their presence alone forcing enemy senses to shut down to avoid collapse. On the front decks of alien fleets, commanders whispered without meaning to humans, the word leaving their lips like a prayer, and fear mixed with awe, because the return of humanity was beautiful and horrifying in equal measure. Beautiful because the galaxy was no longer alone against extinction. Horrifying because humanity was no longer the small, loud, laughing species from old stories. Humanity had become something that understood death too well. The swarm sensed it before anyone else. Their bodies shook, forming perfect defense circles. Their hive screaming frequencies into the void, enemy, memory, threat, soul. And for the first time in recorded history, the swarm did not attack, they retreated, crawling backward through dark like spiders running from fire, folding space to escape the shadow of something they remembered too deeply. Because the swarm did not fear guns or ships or bombs. The swarm feared memory, the thing humans used to kill them last time. The council chamber erupted in chaos as ambassadors watched the unthinkable. The greatest predator in the galaxy running like prey in front of ships made of black flame. But the council president, tears running down his 3 eyes, whispered the truth alone in his seat. This is what happens when a species refuses to die. Inside the black flame flagship, thousands of humans sat in silent rows, chairs fused into the structure of the ship like rib bones. Their bodies still, eyes closed, not breathing. Because they did not need to breathe air anymore, their lungs replaced by energy conversion. Hearts beating slow as dying stars, blood glowing faint blue like galaxies trapped in veins, and every human mind connected, threads of thought forming rivers of memory. Each person seeing through millions of eyes at once, feeling every heartbeat in the hive, every emotion amplified until individual identity dissolved into a collective song. In the center of that storm, the hive commander sat on a throne grown from dark plasma, his face still human but shaped by pain, features carved by loss, hair white like bone, eyes glowing blue like stars collapsing into neutron cores, his voice calm inside the mind of every soldier. Do not break the circle. We will not erase the galaxy. We will protect it. The hive answered with one sound. Millions of voices layered into one whisper, for Sol. For tomorrow. And for the first time, the galaxy understood why humans apologized. To win the last war, humanity became a weapon made of grief. Their minds burned into unity, individuality sacrificed, love shared so deeply that pain became light. And when the war ended, they could not separate without madness, so they erased themselves from history, walking into the dark beyond galaxies to heal, waiting until the universe needed them again. Not for conquest, but for protection. Now that need came. The dark flagship opened its hull like petals of a star made from black flame, revealing its weapon, not a cannon, not a bomb, but a void core shaped like memory, a sphere of energy made from layered emotion, millions of broken stories pressed into one point, the perfected version of the final whisper, the weapon that killed half the swarm centuries ago by forcing them to feel humanity's suffering, something no predator can survive. Alien scientists watching from safe distance screamed, not out of fear, but out of awe, because this was impossible. Humans turned trauma into a weapon, turning love into energy, the kind that grows stronger with each death, with each scream, with each child lost in war, something no species can ever match because only humans feel pain like art, turning heartbreak into fire. The hive commander spoke to the galaxy through every channel, every mind, no sound, just emotion carrying words like wind carries seeds. We are returning to protect Earth. Do not follow. This is our burden. But the council refused. Their fleets moved beside the Black Flame fleet, forming walls of ships like shields for a returning family, and the council president spoke, his voice shaking with courage. The galaxy will not let humans die alone again. Millions of soldiers across thousands of species cheered, not for victory, but for unity, the unity humans never had last time. And for a moment, the hive mind inside the flagship felt warmth, something forgotten, something small, hope, not the cold hope of survival, but the warm hope of companionship. The commander opened his eyes slowly, the glow fading to human blue, and whispered into the hive, they learned. The hive answered like thunder made from tears, "We are not alone." That one realization shook every human mind in the storm. The galaxy changed, children grew without fear, species worked together, enemies became allies, and for the first time since the last Dawn War, humanity felt the possibility of peace. But peace requires survival. The swarm regrouped at the edge of the system, pulsing fear frequencies that translated into one line: erase soul. Erase memory. The hive commander stood, the entire ship rising with his motion like a living organism answering its heart, and he whispered into the universe, "You failed once. You will fail again." As the black flame fleet advanced, the galaxy witnessed something history never recorded. The war that destroyed humanity once would now be fought with the whole galaxy behind them. The swarm turned to run, darkness folding like paper under pressure, because monsters cannot face the children of extinction when they return with allies. And every planet, every moon, every ship whispered humanity's name in fear, not fear of humans, but fear for humans, fear that the species that saved the galaxy once will burn again to save it a second time. And on millions of worlds, children looked at the sky, feeling a voice inside their hearts. Humanity is coming home. The moment the black flame fleet accelerated toward the swarm, space did not show a chase. It showed a memory repeating itself, a wound reopening across the universe, because the last time humanity charged like that, stars broke and never healed, and every sensor across the galaxy blinked warnings faster than eyes could read, measuring gravity waves like tidal screams rolling through dark matter, measuring emotional resonance like storms inside the collective mind of the hive, and for the first time, alien fleets flying beside humans felt a strange energy washing through their ships. Human memories. Thousands layered on top of thousands, flashes of burning cities under red skies, children hiding under collapsed buildings, soldiers holding hands while screaming into void, mothers whispering promises into dying ears, fathers throwing themselves into fire to save. Strangers, faces that no longer exist pouring through the nervous systems of ships built from stars, and every soldier watching those memories began crying without reason, their hearts breaking for people they never met. Because humanity's greatest weapon was not rage, it was love so powerful it turned into a storm. The swarm advanced in fear shapes, forming spirals meant to absorb light, their bodies vibrating in frequencies that erase matter, their hunger screaming through space like ancient instinct, erase the source. Memory kills hive. To the swarm, the hive mind of humans was poison, the only thing that ever broke their perfect structure, because the swarm feeds on weakness. But humanity is the only species that feeds on pain, turning death into fire, turning loss into growth, evolving with each tragedy until every scream becomes fuel for victory, and monsters cannot win against something that turns suffering into strength. The alien fleets opened fire first, beams of white plasma ripping through the void like swords made of starlight, explosions blooming in silence like flowers made of gravity, missiles slicing into dark bodies that twisted like shadows avoiding light. But for the first time the swarm struggled, their perfect patterns breaking because there was unity behind humans, and unity is something they never faced before, something they feared even more than the hive mind of humanity, a galaxy standing together, not because humans forced them, but because humans inspired them. In the center of the storm, the hive commander raised his hand, and every human ship responded like veins moving blood, releasing black flame cores. Compressed memory bombs made from centuries of war, spheres that glowed with soft blue light like tears turned into stars, and when they detonated, they did not explode like weapons, they released emotion, shockwaves of human experiences, love, grief, fear, hope, smashing into the swarm, forcing them to feel, something predators never evolved to understand, and the swarm screamed, not physically, but through energy frequencies, patterns that translated into one terrified line. Stop. No more memory. It was the first time in history the swarm expressed fear with meaning, not instinct. They remembered, and memory is death to creatures born from absence. The hive mind of humans did not pause, did not celebrate, because there was no victory in making monsters cry. They pressed forward, guided by the voice of their commander echoing through millions of minds like a calm ocean, his words quiet: do not hate. Protect Sol. Not one human voice asked for revenge. Not one mind screamed for blood. Even though the hive carried unimaginable pain, the collective chose protection over destruction. A choice that shocked every species watching, because the galaxy expected humans to return as machines of war, but instead they returned as guardians, beings who saw the worst war imaginable and learned that survival is not enough. You must preserve tomorrow. As the battle raged, alien ships fell like stars dying early, their hulls cracking, crews screaming names of loved ones into recordings that might never reach home. And in those moments the Hive felt every death, every fear, absorbing it into the collective heart like parents holding children dying in their arms. Memories of strangers becoming memories of their own. And each time a ship died, the Hive grew stronger, not through hunger but through compassion. And that strength flowed into weapons like rivers of light. The swarm realized the truth. They were not fighting a species. They were fighting emotion itself, a force born from billions of lives layered across time. And predators cannot kill what they cannot comprehend. In desperation, the swarm's queen emerged, a colossal sphere of darkness the size of a moon, covered in tendrils that absorbed gravity, her body pulsing like a dying star wrapped in shadow, her voice shaking space through void frequencies. You cannot kill what is born from extinction. And the Hive answered with the calm that only comes from centuries of pain conquered. We already died once. With that answer, the Hive commander stepped forward into the storm, mind opening fully, releasing every memory humanity ever hid, every scream from every battlefield, every last word of soldiers dying alone, every promise whispered by dying parents, every child crying in dust, every friend holding a body that stopped breathing, all of it. The entire trauma of a species unleashed like a river breaking through a dam made of centuries. The emotional blast hit the swarm queen, not like a weapon, but like truth, overwhelming her with the weight of something she never understood. Guilt, not from her own actions, but from feeling humanity's suffering, the suffering she caused, and predators do not know guilt. Guilt breaks them. Her scream shook galaxies, a pulse of darkness collapsing into itself, her tendrils pulling inward, desperate to escape the feeling ripping through her hive. The alien fleets watched in awe and horror. Humans won by forcing the swarm to feel, a victory that no weapon could achieve, because weapons kill bodies, but memories kill destiny. The queen began to flee, folding darkness like wings, escaping toward the black beyond galaxies, her voice trembling with confusion. Why mercy? And the hive answered, millions of voices speaking as one. Because we remember what it feels like to lose everything. The battlefield fell into silence, not victory silence, but sacred silence, the kind after a funeral where everyone understands something important died. Not just the swarm's power, but the idea that survival requires hate. The alien fleets floated beside the hive ship, too afraid to speak, too humble to celebrate, because they realized humanity was not the monster they feared. Humans were the guardians they never deserved, creatures born from collapse, shaped by loss, who returned not to burn galaxies, but to save the children of those who abandoned them centuries ago. In the hive, the commander collapsed back into his throne, his eyes dimming, his body shaking from the weight of memories shared, whispering through the link, do not chase. Let them live. We choose tomorrow. And the entire hive went quiet, accepting his will, their ships dimming like black stars cooling after centuries of burning. Across the galaxy, tears fell from eyes of species who never met humans, crying for people who died centuries before they were born, crying for a sacrifice that no one recorded, crying for the fact that humanity fought alone once, and will never have to again. Alien commanders saluted the hive, even though humans had no eyes open to see it. A gesture of respect to a species that turned extinction into evolution, war into memory, hatred into mercy. And the galaxy whispered humanity's name, not in fear, but in gratitude, voices carried through space like wind carrying seeds. Humanity, not as warning, but as promise. Because everyone understood the truth. Humans do not fight because they love war, humans fight because they love tomorrow. When the battlefield fell silent, when the last echo of the swarm queen's scream dissolved into deep space like a nightmare fading at sunrise, the galaxy did not cheer, did not celebrate, did not raise flags of victory, because what they witnessed was not a war won by strength, it was a war won by grief, by memories heavier than black holes, by love strong enough to carry centuries of pain without turning into hate, and every soldier in every fleet felt too small to speak, staring at the black flame ships floating like dark moons around the ruins of battle. Their lights dim, their energy pulsing slow like hearts that gave everything and now rest in quiet pain. and even the most powerful admirals, the most prideful empires, bowed their heads in silence because they understood that they survived not by their own courage, but by the sacrifice of a species they once misunderstood, a species that died once to save the galaxy, and came back to save it again without asking for anything in return. In the council chamber, leaders from 5,000 worlds stood together, not arguing, not shouting, but trembling with the weight of what they saw, and the council president, his voice broken by tears he could not hide, spoke only 2 words into the microphone, words heard across the galaxy: forgive us. Forgive us for not being there last time. Forgive us for believing you were monsters. Forgive us for letting children grow while your children died in a sky on fire. Forgive us for turning your sacrifice into rumor instead of memory. Those words echoed through every screen, reaching the ears of billions who stopped what they were doing and listened, their eyes filling with tears for the first time in history for people they never met. The alien fleets turned their ships toward the Black Flame flagship, saluting, not with weapons, but with light, millions of lights blinking across the darkness like stars bowing in respect, forming a pattern that looked like a crown on the head of a fallen world. Inside the hive ship, the collective minds of humans felt that light, not as vision, but as warmth, a warmth they did not know existed anymore, warmth they lost when their minds merged in the Last Dawn War, warmth they sacrificed so their children could smile again, heat of gratitude radiating through the cold network of shared memories like sunlight touching a battlefield covered in snow. The hive commander slowly opened his eyes, the glow fading from burning blue into human softness, his voice shaking the entire hive mind, not through command, but through emotion: they stand with us. And millions of connected minds shivered, because for centuries they carried only memory, memory of war, memory of loss. But now, for the first time, they carried memory of unity, a memory humanity never had before. The hive answered, their voices blending like ocean waves touching each other: we are not alone. Outside, the council's flagship approached, broadcasting a message with gentle frequency so it could enter the hive without force: come home. 2 words. Simple. Pure. No politics. No conditions. And those 2 words broke something inside the hive that they did not know could break: the wall between memory and future. Because the Last Dawn War ended with humans walking away from their own world, sealing themselves into darkness to protect a galaxy that didn't even know they existed, leaving Sol behind like a grave they could not visit. And now, the same galaxy that was saved without knowing it came to escort them home. The hive ships turned as one, moving through space like slow-moving planets, heading towards Sol with alien fleets on both sides like guardians surrounding a wounded king returning to the throne of his ancestors. On every world, billions watched live broadcasts as the fleet crossed star systems, each system lighting navigation beacons like candles, guiding humanity through paths that humans carved centuries ago in blood and silence. Children in schools waved at the sky, even though they could not see the ships with their eyes, only with imagination, drawing pictures of humans with glowing blue hearts and black wings of flame, heroes of a story that is both tragedy and hope. Elders sat alone on balconies, whispering stories they heard when they were children, of warriors from a blue world who loved too much to let others die. And soldiers stood at attention, saluting screens with shaking hands, whispering one line: welcome home. When the fleet arrived near Sol, the human hive mind felt a shock so powerful it nearly tore the network. Earth, shining like a blue jewel wrapped in white clouds, oceans glittering like diamonds under sunlight, forests swaying in the wind, mountains rising like ancient guardians, a home they saw only in inherited memories, a dream carried in blood, a planet they died for but never lived in as one consciousness. Millions of minds cried without tears, because the hive cannot cry. Emotion flows but bodies do not move. Yet the pain of beauty, the pain of memory, the pain of love for something they sacrificed everything for washed through the hive like waves breaking on rocks. The commander whispered into the hive, his voice so soft it felt like a prayer: this is why we died. And the hive answered with the voice of every ancestor: for this sky. The alien fleets formed a circle around Sol to guard their return, not because humans needed protection, but because respect demanded it, and the council broadcast a universal declaration across every world, carved into law with solemn words: no world shall face extinction alone again. A promise written in crystal, in history, in the hearts of billions who now understood that power is not for domination. Power is for protection. The final lesson humanity taught without speaking. The hive ship descended toward Earth slowly, not as invader, not as conqueror, but as child returning to mother, and ocean waves rose around it like arms pulling it into an embrace, clouds circling its hull like halo. And at the edge of the hive mind, something unexpected happened. A voice broke through the network, not the commander, not a soldier. A child, born into the hive, never having walked on Earth, whispering with trembling innocence, "Will it hurt?" And the commander answered with love instead of command, "No. This is peace." The hive dissolved its unity slowly, gently separating minds like threads being unwoven from a cloak, giving each consciousness back its individuality, releasing millions from a storm of memory into their own minds, each waking like dreamers seeing the world for the first time, crying real tears now, touching their own faces, speaking with their own voices, holding the hands of those beside them as separate people again. It was painful, beautiful, overwhelming. The rebirth of humanity. On the council balcony, the president stood, watching humans walk onto Earth's sand and grass, touching soil like sacred treasure, collapsing to their knees, pressing their faces into dirt, into roots, into home, whispering with cracked voices, "We made it." And billions of aliens watching cried, because they understood that humanity did not come home as gods or rulers. Humanity came home as survivors, humble, broken, healed by the sight of blue sky. The galaxy whispered their name, but not in fear, the way they whispered at the beginning. Now they whispered with love, with gratitude, with awe, humanity. Not a warning, a promise. That as long as this species exists, the future has protectors who know the price of tomorrow. The final whisper of humanity echoed across the stars, spoken not by commanders or heroes, but by a soldier standing barefoot in Earth's grass, looking at a sunrise her ancestors died to protect. We remember. Now we live. And in that moment, the galaxy understood the deepest truth of this story. The war was so devastating that the galaxy now whispers humanity's name in fear, not because humans destroy worlds, but because humans refuse to let worlds die. End.